Behind the Shades.
Take us through the beginning of your journey and how you ultimately ended up in that situation, Amanda.
As with most survivors of human trafficking, we grow up in fairly abusive households. I'm sure you probably have a trigger warning on this episode, so I'm just going to let loose. Um, so my mother was emotionally manipulative and abusive. My father was physically abusive, and my brother started molesting me when I was 4. That's my entire family. My mom, my dad, my brother, and me. That was our household. So when you're getting it from every single angle, there's really no escape. I had no safe place. I was growing up in this household where every single day I wished and prayed that maybe I was actually switched at birth. That was one of the rumors that was going around my family. Or maybe my real family would come and find me someday. Maybe somebody would come and rescue me. And I kept looking for that. And I grew up in this household. I was molested again when I was 12, again when I was 13, again when I was 15. I was raped at 17. And then things got really bad. I wasn't trafficked until I was 18 years old. So, and as you touched on, it could literally be anyone. I was at the time living in Arizona with a boyfriend who was more than twice my age. I was working as a convenience store clerk at a 7-Eleven. I was working my butt off just trying to make ends meet. And this boyfriend had a friend who was going to have a birthday party in Las Vegas. And this guy asked my boyfriend if he could borrow me for his birthday weekend. And he agreed. And the way they presented it to me was I would get a free trip to Las Vegas. And even though I was 18 and I couldn't go gambling, there's plenty to do in Las Vegas, right? There's roller coasters and amusement park stuff, and there's circus, and New York looked just amazing with the roller coasters and all the different arcades and stuff. And I was excited. I wanted to go. And when we got there, we went straight to the hotel where he checked in, and he laid some ground rules. I was not to leave the room. If I left the room, I would be abandoned there in Las Vegas. I would not have a way back. I was only allowed to order room service once per day, but the hotel had instructions to leave the cart outside of the room so that nobody would see me and start asking questions as to if I was okay. And I was in that hotel room for 52 hours before we flew back to Arizona. And I don't even want to talk about the things that happened while I was in that room. And the beauty of being as healed as I am is that I don't have to. I can leave it up to the listener's imagination as to how horrible things were. It was one of the most traumatic events of my life. As soon as I got back, I split. I took off. I couldn't stand to be there anymore. I met some other guy who wanted to rescue me. I hate that word, by the way, rescue, because nobody's truly going to rescue anyone except yourself. They might help you, but you're going to rescue yourself. And this man offered me a place to stay. He was in his 60s and I was 18. And he thought he was going to be my boyfriend. And I wasn't okay with that either. So I went to Arkansas on a 1-week trip to go and visit my grandmother. And I was going to go and stay with her for a little while and just spend Thanksgiving with her that year. And while I was there, I met another man. You can see this pattern forming from one man to another to another. That pattern began when I was quite young, with all the molestations, with the rapes, with all of that stuff happening. I started to believe that that was my lot in life. This is who I was supposed to be. I was a sex object for men who were going to do what they were going to do. And why not use that to my advantage rather than letting them take it away from me? Why not just give it to them in exchange for something? So in a way, without receiving monetary compensation, I was prostituting myself without even realizing it. I was being in relationships just so that I would not be homeless. And this was a pattern for a long time. So the man I met in Arkansas then drove all the way out to Arizona after I had returned. I ended up with a really nasty flu that year. He drove all the way out and picked me up and drove all the way back to Arkansas and hid me from my family until I was ready to tell everybody that I was there. And then we got married. He turned out to be abusive. So I was looking for another way out, and I met another man. But this one was my boss. I was working at a horse farm at the time. And this man was such a good man. He did not want to take advantage of me or have a relationship like that. He wanted to offer me a safe place to be so that I could stay away from the abuse that I was going through. He recognized it. He was a Vietnam War vet, and that man will forever be one of my heroes. He was amazing. He took me in and gave me his guest house. He gave it to me to use, free charge, nothing. And I continued to work for him until I fell out of a hayloft one day, tore some cartilage in my knee, and needed a surgery. So he wanted to fly me to Florida, where my other grandmother lived, my dad's mother. I was going to stay with her. And while I was getting my knee surgery and recuperating, I could stay there with her and then continue to just kind of focus on me for a little while and manage for a bit. And then when I was done with the recuperation, Josh Green was his name. He had another horse farm down in Florida, and he was going to give me a job down there so I could stay away from this abusive man. I got all the way down to Florida, and I called my grandmother from the Daytona Beach bus station, only to have her husband tell me that she wasn't coming to get me. My family, my mother and father specifically, called her and told her that if she took me in, they would never speak to her again. So I was abandoned by my entire family at 19 years old in a Daytona Beach bus station at 10 o'clock at night with $5 in my pocket. That was probably one of the scariest moments that I've had.